Everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book dunk, and today I have my quarterly one hopefuls for you. So if you know me, or maybe you don't, and that's perfectly fine. Let me just find my post for it. Sorry, just give me a second. If you know me, or maybe you don't, I don't do TBRs. I don't do monthly TBRs, nor do I do monthly wrap-ups. However, in 2025, I decided to try doing something like a quarterly wrap-up instead. So every 3 months, I put in all the statistics. I talk about all the books that I read within those 3 months, and I give you the stats for it. I thought it would be a better screenshot of what I read over the 3 months and how my reading can greatly differ between the end of one quarter and the beginning of the next. It's crazy how my reading goes. So what I also did was I did hopefuls for the next quarter. So for example, if I was posting my quarter 2 wrap up, I would want to do quarter 3 wrap ups, quarter 3 hopefuls. So books that I want to read in the third quarter. And I didn't get anything if I read all of them, but again, I didn't read them. So that overall sort of longer than 1 month TBR thing kind of helped me a bit. I think I'm saying maybe a few of the quarters, I actually did knock out a couple. I think I don't remember, but don't quote me on that. But I think I did knock out quite a few. Anyways, so these are my 2026 quarter 1 hopefuls. I know that people do like TBRs or stuff like that, at least monthly ones, and I don't do them, so I decided I'd bring a quarter 1 hopeful instead. I don't have to read all of these. I just think it would be beneficial to me and more content for you. Easier to make content. If I did read some of these. I do have a couple of these on like my soon to be read, like in the very near future. And I'm reading some of them already, so it's great. So here are my quarter 1 hopefuls. I'll dive a little bit into this, into why I chose these books particularly, and then we can just chat about it in the comments as well. So what would you build as your quarter 1 hopeful? At first I was going to do like a 2026 books in 2026, but I realized that I have too many books, and not 26 books specifically. So quarter 1 hopefuls. There are 24 books on here, so let's get to it. So the first book I have is The Wolf and His King, and this is the Musaeum Society Book Club January pick. So I chose this one because the cover looked cool, and I think it's like a medieval retelling of like a tale or something like that. So I just love medieval retellings. Next, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. This is our classic. So in 2026, I decided to pick a new fantasy release as well as a classic for every month. So that is our January classic. And since quarter 1 covers January to March, I have included all the book club picks in this essentially. Then we have Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This is Heather Fawcett's newest release. It's set in 1920s Montreal. And for those that don't know, I'm Canadian. I live like 6 hours away from Montreal. I think I also speak French, so I'm sorry. I live 6 hours away from Montreal. And this has cats, and we lost our cat in 2025, but so hopefully I won't cry. This is the February pick for the Musaeum Society Book Club. Next, we have North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a book that my dear friend Helen has recommended to me last year after I read Pride and Prejudice for the first time and actually finished it. I know, 23 years old and I just finished Pride and Prejudice. Yikes. And then we have The Library of Amerlin. This is a new release and I'm so excited, and I got an ARC, so and this is our March pick, and for the classic we have Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Just like Jane Eyre, I said this in a reel, just like Jane Eyre is the book my mother has been trying to get me to read for so long. She said it's one of her like favorite classics or whatever. Master and Margarita is the book that my dad recommended I read in Russian when I told him that I wanted to get back into reading in Russian. And yeah, so this one's for you, Dad. And also in 2026 for the book club, I decided to make a separate nonfiction list where I have assigned 2 books a quarter plus a bonus book. But however, I do have 2 separate Storygraph challenges for this. In the original Storygraph challenge, the 3rd book is a bonus book, meaning you do not have to read it in order to complete the challenge. You just need to read the 8 other books. Because I did pick out, by the way, heads up, I have all the I have the list for like all the books for the nonfiction list. So like I have all the books for the whole year for the nonfiction side. For the fantasy and classic side for the regular list, I only have January to June. Just a heads up. I hope that makes sense. So for the first quarter, the two books that are, the two books is Penelope Bones by Penelope's, oh my goodness, I cannot speak. Penelope's Bones by Emily Hauser and Red Thread by Charlotte Higgins. So these are both ancient Greek-ish, because Penelope's Bones talks about Homer's woman and the woman in Homer's epics, and Red Threads talks about Theseus and the Minotaur and Ariadne and the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. And our bonus book is The Epic Woman of Homer by my dear friend Irene. And yeah, this ties into sort of Penelope's Bones, and both of them sort of tie into Red Thread. And yeah, so very excited for everyone to give those a try. And then next we have the first, so Fellowship of the Ring in Russian. And this year I specifically gave myself a slightly different goal in regards to reading books in Russian and French. So in 2025, I guess I can say last year at this point. Last year, I had a very generalized goal where I said I want to read one book in Russian and one book in French. This is a problem because that is incredibly vague, right? I could pick up a short story and count. However, I really wanted to, knock it out. So this year, I decided I'm going to make myself a goal, right? Just like we do reading goals, just like we do page goals, just like we do, daily goals for anything, I wanted to make myself a goal. So originally The Lord of the Rings was split into 6 books, right? So Fellowship has book 1 and 2, Two Towers has books 3 and 4, and Return of the Kings has books 5 and 6. This is also how it is split in the regular versions, right? If you open up Fellowship, you have book 1 and book 2, right? However, it's still book 1 in general. And in the Russian version, it is the same thing. There is a part 1, sort of book 1, right? And then book 2. Book 1 ends when Frodo passes out from his wound that he gets at Weathertop. And book 2 begins as he wakes up in the House of Elrond. Similar to how there's that sort of shift in the movie as well. Because while it's not obvious that it's the start of book 2, it is obvious in the book itself. So for Fellowship, for my Russian book, I want to read up to book 2. So just as Frodo passes out from his wound and wakes up in the House of Elrond. And then for my French book, I want to read Le Comte de Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And I want to read the first volume. So in French, they're sometimes split into like 3 volumes, even 4. I think I've seen like 6 volumes. And I believe the ones that we have in Canada are most often split into 2 volumes. So tome, I don't remember where it fully ends, but I did find it, and it's 900 pages, right? And which puts probably the second tome at also around that. So that's like, I don't know, that's too many pages to read all at once. It's easier in English. It's so much easier for me to read a 1,000-page book, even if it's a classic in English. And in French, it's a struggle. And then I can finally email my French high school teacher being like, I read Le Comte de Monte Cristo, woohoo. I did read The Count of Monte Cristo last year, and I have a vlog on it. And I read it in English, and it took me like a month, which is slow for me. Even though it was a classic, even though I annotated it, even though I had work and all that stuff, a month is too slow. Anyways, so yeah, so I want to read up to book 2 for Fellowship and tome 1 for Le Comte de Monte Cristo in French. Then we have City of Brass. My Aunt Rabia, she's technically aunt-in-law. She's technically like, her husband is like my mom's cousin, so he's like my second cousin or whatever. Anyways, cousin once removed, whatever. He's my uncle, okay? We have a big enough age gap that he's my uncle, right? He literally, like, he would babysit me. So he's my uncle, right? So she has been like asking me to read City of Brass, so I'm going to lock in this year. Next, we have Getting the Ninth. I'm so scared. Out of all the books on this list, I think this is the one that I'm the most scared of because I feel like I will not understand the hype. I'm so sorry. I feel like I will not understand the hype. I'm so sorry for this. I'm so sorry. Anyways, yeah, I'm so scared of this because it seems like a cult classic in terms of like sci-fi. Like, you ask someone for like a sci-fi fantasy book recommendation and someone somewhere is going to say getting in the ninth. Okay. Next we have A Storm of Swords. For some reason, since I started A Song of Ice and Fire, I have ended up only reading one book per year. So I started A Song of Ice and Fire in 2023. I read A Game of Thrones. I started A Clash of Kings, and then I dropped it and I read something else completely different. And I never picked it back up. And then did I say 2023? Sorry. 2024, I read A Game of Thrones. 2024. Yeah. 2024. Oh my god, I cannot speak. 2024, I started A Song of Ice and Fire. I read A Game of Thrones. I enjoyed it. Cool. Enjoyed it enough to keep going. Because the first book can really make it break it for me. And then in 2025, I continued it with A Clash of Kings, right? So I restarted Clash of Kings and I continued it. And then in 2026, I want to just continue the series, no pressure, nothing. This will pop up probably in other hopefuls until I actually get to it. But yeah. And then we have Jade City. In my defense, I read this one years ago. I did read this one years ago before it blew up and before the third book came out, I think. I think the second book had just come out as I was reading it. And then we were waiting for the third one to come out, so there's that. Next we have The Wolf Den. This has been sitting on my shelf for so long, ever since I think 2-3 years into starting a bookstagram, it blew up, and retellings and historical books about ancient Greece and Pompeii and stuff really blew up, so to speak. So yeah, this one. And the next one I have is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me, and I think they're called ikigai, where the main character goes into this story. So interesting. Next, we have a book in Russian that follows the female protagonists of Russian сказки, Russian fairy tales. This has appeared consistently on every single, I think, hopeful list, quarterly hopefuls list last year, and I fear it will continue to appear again until I get to it. Next, we have Ruska by Edward Rutherford. This is something I actually started, but I didn't finish it because it is a long book. And it's really interesting because it chronicles the life of this, I think, one family, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, something happened with my name. Oh, great. And I started via audiobook as well, and it's great. I was really enjoying it, and I want to read through it again. I want to continue it. Next, we have Gunmetal Gods. The cover is what really got me, right, interested. It's what piqued my interest. However, the fact that it's on KU made everything much easier. Then we have Talon Sister. This one comes as a recommendation from Elliot Brooks, who's one of my favorite booktubers on here. And she has talked nonstop about this, and I started reading it. I was really enjoying it. Sorry. Damn it. I was really enjoying it, and I can't wait to continue. Next, we have The Strength of a Few. I need to reread The Will of the Many, which I did do. That vlog is coming at some point. And I'm going to jump into Strength of the Few. I'm surprised I didn't get any spoilers, so hopefully nothing, even if I say it right. And then lastly, we have The Everlasting and the Second Death of Locke. I'm so late to the game. I love Lady Knights. I love the concept of Lady Knights, okay? I'm so late to the game. So that is my, so to speak, quarter one TBR. I want to say I hesitate to call it a TBR. Okay, I hesitate to call it a TBR because if I don't finish any of these, if I don't finish a lot of these, it's fine. But also, it's 24 books over 3 months seems doable, but also I have some chonkers in there, so I'm a little worried. But anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your TBR down below, whether it's just a monthly one or a quarterly one or half a year or a whole year. I don't know, whichever split you want to do. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one. Follow me on all my socials, check out the videos that I mentioned, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!